What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Muslim Point of View, and this is your host Noor Mudaris. Let's just jump straight into it. For our first segment, we got our Dumbo of the week, and for our Dumbo of the week, we got a far-right group in Quebec called La Meute. Now, there was a group of students at Dawson College who were hosting an Islamic Awareness Day. The event, of course, having a goal of bringing awareness about what Islam truly is. And so part of their event was a try a hijab booth. Now, of course, this is a practice that's being done for many years, right? And a lot of Islamic Awareness Days in different countries, in different provinces, and so on, do this exact same booth. Now, of course, if you aren't familiar with this booth, all it really is you bring a person and they try on a hijab, and that's as simple as that. But unfortunately, this far-right group thought this was an act of oppression. I don't know about you, but if a booth literally says try a hijab, I don't really see the keyword oppression in that. I mean, if the sign said something like wear hijab or else we'll kill you, I mean, that's a different story. And again, I'm really not surprised. I mean, these people have been at it time and time again, trying to find anything wrong with Islam. Anything that they feel that even gets a remote amount of media attention, they'll legitimately just jump on. Which brings me to my rant of the week. One thing that I really get annoyed about is when I find people saying that the hijab is a form of oppression. Now, one thing you have to understand is that for Muslims living in the West, you can't really be oppressed in that manner. We live in a country that literally gives us the freedom of choice. For about 95% of the women here living in Canada or in the US, they're literally wearing it by choice. It's not because they're forced to wear it. One thing I really don't understand is, for example, when you look at the Virgin Mary, or even, for example, when people see nuns, they're literally wearing a veil. Yet when a Muslim wears a veil, it's seen as a form of oppression, while the latter is seen as something that's religious. I can only imagine if La Meute, for example, one of those members over there, saw a nun walking in the street. I'm very sure they wouldn't say, "Go back to your country, you Muslim." Yet there's a double standard just because our religion is technically different from Christianity. This is legitimately what the problem with Quebec is. It's just a whitewashed province. And unfortunately, in a place where we talk about multiculturalism, it's one of the provinces that's the most racist as well. I mean, just look at one of the MPs, for example, was this close to actually banning hijabs. You talk about oppression, eh? In fact, far-right groups like that are actually the oppressors to begin with. When you don't allow human beings to live their life according to their own choices, that, my friend, is the definition of oppression. Anyhow, let's move on and let's go to our boss of the week. This week's boss is one boss that has been a boss before, and I know I said boss maybe 4 times, but I gotta say that the boss is Obama. Why, might you ask? Because Obama finally decided to abstain from voting for the Israeli settlements. Of course, for you guys who know about the Israeli settlements and how they're abusive to human rights, and how it's almost been a half a century since it's been going on, the UN has finally decided to put a stop to these settlements by finally declaring them illegal. That, my friends, is the first legitimate step that's ever been taken so far in helping the Palestinian cause. Now, of course, this doesn't stop Netanyahu from putting an end to this progress by hoping to work with Trump to put an end to this decision. But enough of that, and let's go to our global news of the week. In this week's global news, we have India, who's decided to invest in 88 million cows by giving them identity cards that can be tracked online. This is set to be done by the end of 2017. The whole point of this is to hopefully produce more and more milk and try to, regulate some of the vaccines and so on. But one just has to ask, what's the point of an identity card? What is it for? Is it for like cows when they enter the building, they have to scan their card for security purposes? Yeah, you're good. You can pass through. I mean, at least now you'll actually be able to tell the difference between 2 cows, I guess. Like this one is John and this one is Barry, for example. I mean, what's next? Are those cows gonna have their own customer service department as well? Sir, I need you to calm down, okay? It's ma'am, not mer. The good news is that this is gonna be a job creation for about 120,000 technicians, so kudos to them. But enough of that, let's go into our what of the week. And in this week's what, we've got a man who got forceps removed from his stomach after them being there for 18 years. It took him 18 years to finally figure out that there was a pair of scissors in his stomach. And the news story literally says that this man felt a stomach ache for 18 years. I mean, what's wrong with this guy? Supposedly this man had a surgery 18 years ago, and the person who was actually doing the surgery forgot the scissors in his stomach. At this point, I don't even know who to blame. Do I blame the doctor for putting them in the first place or this guy for realizing it after 18 years? The first question I have to ask is, how does a guy forget scissors on another man's stomach to begin with? Doesn't he realize that his scissors are missing? Did he literally just doze off and actually fall asleep as he was performing the surgery? I mean, unless his assistant was a monkey and this happened. Hey Bob, I'm gonna go take a 5-minute nap. Do you mind doing the surgery for me? Can you imagine the trouble that he would have had every time he had to travel to some place? Sir, we're gonna need you to remove any metal objects, please. Just hold on 1 second. I mean, can you imagine if his friend was to ask him for a pair of scissors, for example, how awkward that would be? Yo, Bob, can I borrow your pair of scissors, please? Just hold on 1 second. I mean, maybe one good thing that came out of this is that he ate less because it cut his appetite. Huh? But enough of that, and let's go to our last segment, which is the LOL of the week. For our last segment of the week, our LOL of the week, we've got a story about this woman who was giving birth while doing an oil change. Now, the story goes that this was just another ordinary day, and she had to go to a garage to get an oil change. Then something unexpected happened, and her water broke. As this woman is calling for help, this random woman comes in and so happens to be a nurse. So they eventually deliver the baby, and the baby is in perfect health, but unfortunately, it raises a whole bunch of questions for myself. For example, after the oil change, the garage workers charge this lady for the labor. Here's your car, ma'am. Also, here's your baby. It's a boy. Another question is, what did they name the baby? I mean, did they name him Megatron or Optimus Prime or like Lightning McQueen? One of the most important questions that comes to mind is, why is a 9-month pregnant woman who's literally 10 minutes away from giving birth doing an oil change? I mean, when they're on their way to the hospital, all of a sudden the oil indicator came on. They're like, oh wait, we need to get an oil change first. And the last question, is this going to be the start of a new business? Garages with delivery services. We fix your cars and deliver your baby. This leaves me with the question of the week, which is, what would you name your baby if it was delivered in a garage? Now folks, that's all that we have for today. And if you like this video, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And once again, don't forget, keep it halal, and see you next week on Muslim Point of View.